Okay, this video is going to be the first video in Trig, and the first lesson in Trig is on page 199, so make sure you're open to that page, and it's lesson 1. So the first thing, you guys, that I want to talk to before we even start this lesson is something to do with your calculators. So what I have up here, this was the code to reset your calculator, and what I want to do is I want to reset the calculator with you, and then we're going to have to what's called change our mode. So on your calculators, if we were to reset your calculators, so to go back to factory setting, remember that it was second plus. So everybody enter second plus. You're going to hit number 7. We scroll over to all, and you're going to hit number 1 and number 2. Okay? What happens is this puts your calculator into what's called factory settings, and your factory settings are what's called radian mode. Okay, so how you could tell that you guys are in radian mode is if you go to your calculators and hit mode, it's going to say radian. Radian mode is for grade 12. So the grade 12s, they are constantly for trigonometry switching between radians and degrees. You guys exclusively use degrees in grade 10. So what I need you to do is your calculator, the settings will always take you to radian every time we clear it. I need you to change this to degree mode. Okay, so what you do is you scroll down to degree, select it, and hit enter. So make sure that you're in degree mode, and then just hit second function quit. If you have one of the newer calculators, it will say degree mode up here. The test for being in degree mode is I always tell students to memorize what the sine of 90 is, and the sine of 90 degrees, even though we haven't even started trig, the answer is 1. So when I give you your quiz on Friday, I'm going to say, everybody type in the sine of 90. And you're going to type in the sine of 90 degrees and make sure that a 1 spits out. Because watch what happens. As soon as I reset my calculator, so second plus 7, 1, 2. So as soon as I reset my calculator and I type in the sine of 90, so when I say to you on your test, okay, everybody check your calculators, type in the sine of 90, if this pops up, you are not in degree mode, you're in radian mode. So then I'd have to be like, oh, okay, so this go to mode, degree, and we're in degree mode. Then I could type in the sine of 90, and the sine of 90 degrees always must be 1. So I've had students that will forget on a test to put their calculator into degree mode. Every single question will be wrong if you do that, if you do your test in radian mode. Okay, so that's the first sort of thing that we need to be good with trig. Okay, so what is trigonometry? So what I want you to write, trigonometry, it's the study of triangles. So study of triangles. And particularly what we're looking at in 10C is right angled triangles. So in 10C, every single triangle that I give you will have a right angle. And a right angle is a 90-degree angle. And what we're doing when we're studying trigonometry and we're studying these right angle triangles is we're going to be studying the sides of the triangle. So there's going to be 3 sides to every triangle. And we're going to be studying the angles. So I'm going to call this one for now like angle X, and then I put a little degree sign. And this I'm going to call angle Y with a little degree sign. And then this guy here, because it's a right angle triangle, that is 90 degrees. Who remembers from Math 9? The 3 angles of a triangle, what must they add up to? What is it? 180. So how I could write that is angle 1. So this is your symbol for angle. So angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3 must equal 180 degrees. So the 3 angles must always add up to 180 degrees. And then what's going to happen is eventually, so nice and simple, draw yourself a triangle, make it a right angle. And then if I said, well, this angle up here I want to be 30 degrees, what would this angle be worth? You would say, okay, how I would want you to calculate that guy is 180 degrees minus 90 minus 30 would give you that missing angle. So does anybody know what that would be? What's 180 minus 90 minus 30? 60 degrees. So that missing angle would be 60 degrees. Okay, so that's what trigonometry is. It's the study of triangles, specifically right angle triangles. Okay, we're going to skip this investigation and we're going to go to this, to page 200. And I'm going to teach you how to label your triangle. So just write label triangles. If you have your highlighter, there's 3 different sides of a triangle, and triangles, those 3 sides have 3 names. So highlight this word hypotenuse, highlight opposite, and highlight adjacent. Okay, so here's how you label your triangles. This is the first thing you're going to do every single triangle you get. You will always be given a triangle, and you will always be given an angle. And in this case, this is the angle that they gave me. It's never going to be your 90-degree angle. Like, that's always a given. So they gave you this angle here, which is angle X. So how I tell my students to label triangles is whatever the given angle is, which is this guy here, give that angle a set of eyeballs. That angle always stares at the opposite side. So the opposite side of angle X is AB. That would be side AB. After I label the opposite side, I always go to my 90-degree and I give that guy a set of eyeballs. And it looks like a sad face, right? And the 90-degree angle stares all day long at the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is the longest side of a triangle, and it is always across from the 90-degree. Then by default, the last side of my triangle is going to be what's called the adjacent side, and I always label that A. So I always start, again, with the opposite, then I go to the hypotenuse, then I go to the adjacent. So we need to know what those 3 sides are and the names of those 3 sides. So if we go to class example number 1, what it says is mark each of these triangles, mark the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent relative to angle X. So angle X, you guys, that is our given angle. So I find angle X and I say, you're my given angle, you get the set of eyeballs, because they want everything labeled according to that angle. So angle X always stares at the opposite side. So that's my opposite. Then I find my 90-degree, and it makes a sad face. The 90-degree always stares at the hypotenuse, and by default, that would be my adjacent. Okay, let's go to B. So angle X gets the eyeballs. The eyeballs always stare, the angle always stares at the opposite side. Kieran, what's across from my 90-degree? Hypotenuse. And Jack, by default, what is my last side? Adjacent. They might say to you in your homework, for example, once you label your triangle, what would the adjacent side be? And then you would say, okay, if this is the adjacent side, it's ST. Does that make sense? Or they might say in this one, what is the opposite side? So you'd say, okay, this is opposite. DE is my opposite side. So we just have to be able to label. So that is class example number 1. Okay, let's flip now to class example number 2. I want you guys to star this. This is probably one of the most famous acronyms in Trig, and you're going to say it to yourself like almost every single question you do. How you would say this is SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so the acronym is SOHCAHTOA. Now, in Trig, there are three what's called ratios. And the three ratios, there's a sine ratio, there is a cosine ratio, and T stands for tan. There's a tan ratio. These three ratios are buttons on your calculator. So if you look at your calculator, your three trig ratios are right here. So there's a sine button, a cosine button, and a tan button. And if I said, what is the ratio for sine? Sine, you guys, is O over H. So remember that a ratio is a fraction, and the sine ratio on a triangle is going to be the opposite side over the hypotenuse. That's what the ratio for sine is going to be. Anthony, what would be the ratio for cos? What letter over what letter? A over H. So cosine is right here, and it's A over H. Anthony, what is A and what is H? So what side over what side would give me my cosine ratio? Yep, so adjacent over hypotenuse. My last ratio is my tan ratio. Cade, what would be my tan ratio? What letter over what letter? O over A. Yep, so here's tan up here, and it's opposite over adjacent, okay, for a triangle. So those are our three trig ratios. We're going to skip class example number 2 because the triangle is on the other page, and we're just going to go to class example 3. Okay, so for class example 3, what it says is for the angle A in the diagram, complete the work to express the three primary trig ratios. So here's the first thing that you do. On your triangle, give your given angle a set of eyeballs and label the three sides. So that's where we always start. So they gave us angle A. So you say, okay, that's my given angle, and I'm going to label the three sides. So that would be my opposite. Here's my 90 degree. That would be my hypotenuse. And this by default would be my adjacent. Then what you're going to do is they want the trig ratios. So write your acronym. Your acronym was SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so that's the acronym. And then the sine ratio. So sine is equal to O over H, which is equal to, I got to look at my triangle and say what was O and what was H. So O over H is 20 over 29. And that is the ratio for this triangle, the sine of this triangle. So the sine, all of these ratios, you guys, are just one side over another side. So sine just happens to be opposite over hypotenuse, so 20 over 29. Okay, let's do the cosine ratio. So cosine is ka. So you'd say, okay, cosine ratio is A over H. And then you'd look at your triangle and you'd say, what was A? A is 21. And what was H? H is 29. And that is the ratio for cosine. Last trig ratio is tan. Alexa, what's the tan ratio for TOA? Opposite over adjacent. So then you would say, okay, now I got to figure out what that is. Opposite is 20 over adjacent is 21. And you are done your trig ratios. We're going to just continue on, and then I'll give you your homework at the end. So flip to class example 4. Okay, class example 4. Consider the right triangle PQR shown. So they give me triangle PQR, and there's my given angle. So first thing you need to do, give your given angle a set of eyeballs. So right now, give that guy a set of eyeballs and label your triangle. Because if you can't label, you won't be able to do any of this. Jimmy, length 3 is what side? Is this side here my O, H, or A? That would be O, yep. And then Holly, length 5 is, that's the hypotenuse. And then Ella, length 4 would be, that would be my adjacent, yes. So you do that. Then they say, okay, so how we write the sine ratio, so I'll show you over here. We'll write it up top. So when they say the sine, what we put here before we put our equals is whatever the given angle was. So I look over and I say, okay, my given angle was x. So it's going to be the sine of angle x is equal to, and let's write our acronym off to the side. So SOHCAHTOA. The sine of angle x is O over H, which is equal to, opposite was 3, hypotenuse was 5. And how I would write this, like as a formal answer, is I would say the sine of angle x is equal to 3 over 5. On a test, you wouldn't write that O over H. Like you would put that, but you wouldn't put that in your formal answer, okay? So that's what the sine of angle x is. Now they want us to do the cosine of angle x and the tan of angle x. So cosine of angle x is A over H. Sebastian, what would I write for the cosine of angle x? Yes, 4 over 5. And that would be your formal answer. Then we'd go to the tan of angle x. Tan is TOA. So Cohen, what do you want me to write for the tan of angle x for this? Perfect. Yeah. 3 over 4. We're done. Class example 4. Let's do 5. Which angle gets the set of eyeballs? What do you think? What did they call it? A. That guy right there. That's the angle that they want me to do. So say, okay, that's the angle. That gets the eyeballs. You label from there. So opposite. Yes, Cohen. No, when you get better at this, you don't need to draw the arrows. Yep, if you don't need the arrows, don't even worry about that. Always label, though. You can't not label. Yeah. Okay, so sine of angle A. So again, write your acronym, SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so normally in the last, with the last class example, we would have said, okay, the sine of angle A is opposite over hypotenuse. I'd look over here, and opposite is 30 over 34. But here's what we have to do. In the previous example, these answers do not reduce. If your answer reduces, you must reduce it. So 30 over 34, you could just type that right into your calculator and math 1 fraction it. That is 15 over 17 if you divide both numerator and denominator by 2. So my answer is sine of angle A is 15 over 17. Okay, so the sine of angle A is 15 over 17. So this one, class example 5, it's the same thing that we've been doing, it's just going to reduce, right? So let's go to B, the cos of angle A. So before it's reduced, Antonio, what would the cos of angle A be? So what's A over H for B? Before you reduced it. So just like, look up here, what's A over H according to this? Yes, 16 over 34. You guys would type that into your calculator and that would reduce. the cos of angle A is equal to 16 over 34 is going to reduce to 8 over 17. So when you divide both top and bottom by 2, you get 8 over 17. Okay, last one, the tan of angle A, tan is TOA, which is O over A, so that's 30 over 16. If you type in and reduce 30 over 16, Alexa, what do you get? 15 over 8. And that would be your answer for C. Okay, complete the following. So look what happens here. You guys will look at this and you'll say, well, which angle gets a set of eyeballs? Who could tell by reading this question? It will tell you right in the question. Piper, what do they want? Which angle, C or A, do they want the set of eyeballs to be given to? Which one? Angle A. Yep, the angle is always right here before the equal sign. So how they tell for this one what they want the eyeballs to go on is angle A. So for here, opposite, hypotenuse, by default, the adjacent. So then you say, okay, again, write your acronym for me. Because if you guys remember that acronym, you'll get all these questions, right? If you can label, and if you could follow this acronym, you'll get these questions. So sine of A, Hermes, what's the sine of A? O over H. 1 over root 2, yep. Yep, 1 over root 2. Can't reduce, but that's the answer. Next one, the cos of A. Denzel, what's the cos of A? 1 over root 2. The cos of A. And the tan of A, Owen, what is the tan of A? Yes, how did you get that? What was the ratio? 1 over 1. O over A is 1 over 1. That reduces to 1. Done. Okay, let's do the last question, most complicated, and it's not that complicated. So again, we're going to look at this triangle first, and then you say to yourself, okay, wait a second. They gave me X and they gave me Y, right? So how do we do this? So here's how we do this, you guys. Let's start with just angle X. Okay, so let's do this sine of X and cos of X. I'm going to label my triangle, just assuming we're going to deal with X first. And then we're going to have to erase our triangle. So you want to do this in pencil, because a question like this, we're going to end up erasing. So let's start figuring out this guy and this guy, which is my X. That means that X gets the eyeballs. This would be opposite. This would be hypotenuse. And this would be adjacent. Writing my 3 trig ratios, so TOA, the sine of angle X, chi would be what? What would the sine of angle X be? 6 over 10, which is correct. And then chi, what does that reduce to? 4 over 5. Oh, sorry, 3 over 5. Yeah, 3 over 5. Okay, so I could do this one, and then I could do this guy, the cos of angle X. Kieran, what would the cos of angle X be? Give me it before you simplify and then simplify. Yep. Yes. Okay, so now I've done those two. Here's what I have to do. What do I got to do, you guys? I've got to erase my triangle. Because now, for angle Y, I have to relabel, right? So for angle Y, this guy gets the eyeballs. So now I got to erase this. My hypotenuse won't actually change, but the other two sides will. So now when I go to angle Y, that guy gets the eyeballs. Now this becomes my opposite. As you can see, my hypotenuse stays the same, and this is my adjacent. So as soon as you change like what angle they're talking about, your sides will flip. So now let's figure out the tan of angle Y. Holly, what's the tan of angle Y? 8 over 6, which is 4 over 3. Yep. Sine of angle y. Luke, what's the sine, or sorry, Luke N, what's the sine of angle y? 8 over 10 is correct. And what does that reduce to? Sorry? 4 over 5, yes. Okay, so now let's go to this one. What do you guys want to label first? Do you want angle A first or angle B first? A. Let's start with A. So let's start with angle A, and let's do this one and this one. So this is angle A. That gets your eyeballs. That would be your opposite. This would be your hypotenuse. By default, this would be your adjacent. According to SOHCAHTOA, the cos of angle A is A over H, which is 5 over 13. So the answer for the first one is 5 over 13, doesn't reduce. Then I could go and do this one, angle A. Sine of angle A, sine is so it's O over H, which would be 12 over 13. Erase your triangle and relabel. Because now you would say, okay, now I got to do B. So according to angle B, that is now my opposite. My hypotenuse doesn't change, so you never have to erase your hypotenuse. And by default, that becomes my adjacent. So the cos of angle B, you guys should have gotten, what would it be? A over H. Did you get 12 over 13 for this one? So that guy should be 12 over 13. And tan of B, Jimmy, what did you get for tan of B? Yes. And that would be your answers. So that's your first lesson in trig. Can you guys label a triangle? Can you apply SOHCAHTOA and write each trig ratio according to each trig sine, so sine, cosine, and tangent, according to the ratios? Okay, let's get your homework circled, and I'm going to set up a couple with you. So please circle on number 1. Okay, so on number 1, I want you to do ABC. So circle triangle A, B, C, F, and G. Okay, so that's what I want you to circle. And I'm going to we're going to set up the first one together, and then you guys will do all the rest. So for triangle A, that's my given angle. So if I labeled everything according to the given angle, this would be my opposite side. This would be my hypotenuse. And this would be my adjacent. Then what I could do is I could now fill in A up here. So triangle A would be this guy here, is the one we just did. And the opposite side, if I look, Hermes, what do you think I would write for my opposite side? What letters are my opposite side? DF. Yep. And then I'm just going to double check. The adjacent side they said was DE. So this is my adjacent, and yes, that guy is DE. They said that my hypotenuse was EF. This is my hypotenuse, and it is EF. So this one is good to go. Okay, then here's where we're going to do our ratios. So we're going to write above here, SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so sine we could write is O over H, right? That's what sine is, O over H. But if I was to fill in like according to the sides, because there's no numbers, O is DF, right? So the sine ratio so we're doing sine, O over H. So O is DF over the hypotenuse, which is EF. So that would be my sine ratio. My tan ratio, tan is TOA, O over A. So according to this triangle, O would be DF, and adjacent would BDE. Okay, so I want you to do that for the, I think I gave you 5 triangles. Okay, the next thing I want you to circle is number 2. And I'll set up A with you. You guys will do the rest. So my given angle is angle A in all of these. So I'm just going to do A with you guys. So that's my given angle. So let's label according to the given angle. Opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. Let's write up here SOHCAHTOA. They only want the ratios, which is the fractions. So sine ratio is O over H, and they said it's 4 over 5. So O over H is correct, 4 over 5. The cosine ratio is A over H, so that would be 3 over 5, would be the cosine ratio. And the tan ratio is O over A, so that would be 4 over 3. Okay, so you guys will, I did A, you will do B and C. Circle number 3. And they tell you in the question, they want A, they want B, they want C, they want D. So that's what you're giving the eyeballs to. Flip your page, circle 4. Circle 6. And all I want you to do for 6, because there's a lot of work here, just let me check what I assigned. 6, only 3 triangles. Do D, E, and F. Circle 7. They tell you if you want to just underline it, here is your given angles. So A's gets the eyeballs there, B gets the eyeballs in that triangle, and X gets the eyeballs in that triangle. Circle 8, and we're going to star this one. I'm going to help you set this up. And then your last question is going to be number 9. So let's set up 8, and then I will let you do this work. Okay, so did they even give you guys a triangle for this one? No. So draw any right angle triangle. And you know what I'll do? You're probably used to draw for you. Okay? So what we have to do is they want our triangles to be called ABC. So the points of our triangle are going to be ABC. And what it says, okay, which one do I know my hypotenuse will be? They give me the 3 sides. Which one do I know is my hypotenuse? AB. So I know that this is 52, which is across from my 90 degree. And therefore, I now know that that is A and this is B, because my hypotenuse has to be AB, right? My hypotenuse between these 3 sides, hypotenuse is the longest side. So, Kate, what letter would this be? If they want my triangle to be called ABC, it has to be C. Yep, this guy is C. So now I could fill in my other 2 sides, because AC is 48. So that's 48, and BC is 20. That guy has to be 20. Okay, so then they say the value of cos of B and sine of B. So B is the one they want my eyeballs to go on, that guy there. So let's label according to B, and this would be my opposite, this would be my hypotenuse, and 20 would be my adjacent. Let's write our SOHCAHTOA. And they want the cos of B first. So the cos of angle B is equal to cos is a over h, which would be 20 over 52. And if I reduce that, five over 13. That's the cos of b. When they say this word respectively, what that means they want is the cos of b first, and then they want the sine of b. So what do I know my two answers? I've just narrowed it down to which two of these, what A and D. It's either this guy or it's this guy. Okay, so B and C are out. So I like this for a test question. Then the sine of B is, sine is so O over H. So sine of B would be 48 over 52. Who's got that one reduced? 12 over 15. Oh, 13, Kate, what's my answer? A. Okay, when you guys do 9, you're going to have to label A with eyeballs to figure that out, and then you're going to have to label B with eyeballs to figure out which one they got wrong. But that is your homework for the first lesson.